Hello and welcome to Stir Crazy Art Classes with Gerald Savine. Lesson number 60. What I've been doing, we've been painting the windmill and the buildings. What I've done to save time, I've been bringing in some of the browns and on this and some of the detailing here for the windows as well. And again, you can follow that through if you look at the original picture as well. So I hope that's saved time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a little bit of Payne's Grey, and I've been using Payne's Grey for the windows, giving the light. I'm going to use a bit of Payne's Grey, and I'm going to bring a little bit of the raw umber into that. Just give it a little bit of softening of the colour, and I'm going to use that on the wall here. Now again, it's coming quite a bit heavier than I wanted, so I'm going to now thin that down quite a lot. Around there. Try careful not to lift the mix that was burnt sienna going round here with a bit of the burnt umber in as well, just to give a difference to the roof tiles. Okay, so that's that done that there. What I'm here is I'm going to bring a little bit of the yellow. And I've got a mix of cadmium yellow, and I'll just put a bit of raw umber into that. And I'm just going to pop this into the pavement, sort of cement style sort of pavement that's at the end of the lane that's here. So it's quite thin, but also I've not put a lot of water in this, it's fairly dry. But it's been thinned down, so it just gives that, perhaps it's a bit even there. I think it's probably a little bit darker than I want it to be, so I can add in a bit of colour, water into that, and I'm going to take it down, take the colour out, do it very, very quickly now. I hope you're finding this subject interesting. It's you notice I've done all these bits here. What I've also done is up here, where you've got this fan bit that moves the top of the windmill round, I've taken some of the colour out, so the blue had come across there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a bit, again, picking up the Payne's Grey because it's in shadow, I'm just going to put a bit of colour onto that. Now again, that's quite rich, so I'm going to take and just work it round. There, it's a bit messy, but when it's dry, we'll put some other colouring and just make it a bit more interesting. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the gouache white paint out. I didn't get it out sooner because it was a bit. I didn't want it to go solid before we were using it, so I can keep it nice and fresh. Now, normally I will be using permanent white, but in fact this one's zinc white. This is the designer's colour. Washing my brush out. I'm using a small brush again here, and I'm going to mix up some of the paint, get a bit of flow into it. Not too wet, because otherwise it won't be opaque enough. We need this to be opaque, and there's a big difference between watercolour and gouache. Now, this colour has gone a bit thick on the brush itself, and I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is mix some more up, get as much as I can off the brush, wash the brush out, dry off the worst of the damp, and it's still a bit wet. And then I'm going to pick up some white on the tip of the brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the centre of the star. You will notice it won't show up very well, but we'll be putting shadow in, and that will help. So you need to avoid having too much of the white on the end of the brush. You really do need to keep it on the end of the brush to make sure that it's really covering over and stands out well. Again, this is flowing through here and through here for that sail there. And again, this one here, fortunately we can only see 3 of the sails. You get the 4th sail in. If we saw the front of the windmill, it gets all a bit peculiar, or looks peculiar. It's not so easy to do. And so I used to have I said before, I used to have a client whose logo was a windmill, and I know how difficult they are to do their sails and have them looking all right. Now what I'm going to do is I'll put a bit of colour onto that as well. Now then, making the brush, if you give it a little pinch, you'll get a much thinner line. So I'm going to paint along the pencil lines. Again, try and get as much colour on as possible, but again, be careful just using the tip of the brush to get the colour on. Now what I'm going to do is I'll do one sail now, and then to demonstrate that, and then what we'll do is we'll leave the rest of the sails for you to do, and I'll do them between this session and the next one. I want to try and get this along as quickly as we can. I don't know what your particular interests might be, but I might be perhaps doing some flowers once we've got this painting out of the way, just something a bit different. Or I might do a painting of a pet of some sort, whether it's a dog or even they're quite popular. If you've got your own pet dog, then you might find it nice, something nice to do for yourself. Right, so what I'll do is I'm leaving that now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the white again here. I'm going to bring the white onto this here. So just to sort of improve how it looks. It's a little bit better than it was now. And again, I'm also going to paint the railings around here with the white. Again, it just helps. So it's useful to have a gouache white, because it will, remember, it's not to be thinned right down like you do with watercolour. Try and get it on as thick as you can, but obviously it's got to be able to flow off the brush as well. But coming around there, but again, it's how it just lifts what we can see, because it just adds that little bit of detail in. So there we go. That's I've done the gutter along here in white as well, with a bit of Payne's grey top and bottom just to give it a shadow. So, and there's a window here. See, again here we can bring the white down through the windows of the door. It just smartens it all up. So admittedly it becomes more of a, shall we say, an illustration. But for again, it's coming back to the business of that Klein Ecstasy windmill is well known and an interesting thing. So again, you can see how that's just added a bit of tidiness to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this Payne's grey, and again using the tip of the brush, so I'm really getting the colour there, and I'm going to for the next session I'll bring some more colours in here, because we could do with some reds and some colours colours into that. So that's for now that. So we'll have to call it a session now because it's coming up to time. So let's say goodbye for now and see you again.